Welcome to Timeless Reads a Classics podcast.
It's great to be here.
Today we're embarking on a really positive deep dive into a truly remarkable work.
Absolutely. A classic for a reason.
Our mission isn't just to, recount the plot. We want to explore the heart of its story, really try to uncover its central idea.
And grasp its enduring essence, right? What makes it still speak to us today.
Exactly. And we'll be drawing directly from the text itself, looking at the perspectives within the book to build, hopefully, a really rich understanding.
Think of it as getting to the core of what the author was exploring. The fundamental human experience or insight.
What are the big questions it raises? Why does it feel timeless?
That is the goal.
Okay, so let's begin by encountering our initial guide through this world. A certain Douwes Dekker. We find him as a coffee broker in Amsterdam. He lives on Loriegracht, number 37.
Specific detail there.
And almost immediately, he surprises us. He announces he's writing a book.
Which is pretty unexpected, isn't it? For a businessman who openly says he dislikes novels.
It really is. What strikes you right away is this interesting contrast, this tension.
Definitely. Here's a man grounded in trade, tangible goods, coffee, stepping into storytelling, a world he views with a lot of suspicion.
It makes you immediately curious, doesn't it? What are his motives? What kind of story is he going to tell?
Precisely. And he's quite upfront about that skepticism towards fiction. He questions its value, its truthfulness, especially compared to the facts and figures of his work.
Yeah, he brings up his coffee trade experience, mentions Busslink and Waterman.
Right, to emphasize honesty. As if novelists are just making things up, which I suppose they are, but not in the way he means.
He seems to think embellishment is inherently dishonest, unlike the supposedly straightforward nature of his business dealings.
It establishes his very particular viewpoint, doesn't it? Almost a pragmatic lens. He values the concrete, the verifiable.
And that perspective is going to shape how he presents everything that follows.
No doubt. He even emphasizes it, further mentions he's 43, 20 years on the stock exchange.
Like credentials, right. Proof that he's got a sensible viewpoint.
Yeah, he advocates for gravity and sound understanding. That's his phrase.
With one big exception, of course.
Scripture, yes, that gets a pass.
But this focus on gravity and sound understanding, it really defines how he sees himself. Rational, logical, dealing with the real world.
Unlike those frivolous writers.
Exactly. And this carries over into how he talks about children's literature, too. He's quite critical of Van Alphen's poems.
Ah, yes, the sweet little creatures.
He finds them inaccurate. He remembers his sister having sore eyes, his brother picking his nose. Not exactly idealized.
He even says he felt Van Alphen was being dishonest, even as a child.
It just underscores his demand for realism, even in kids' stories. If it doesn't match his experience, he's bothered by it.
It's a small thing, but it tells you a lot about his character, his expectations.
He then goes on to mock common literary tropes.
The babies and cabbages.
That's his favorite one to make fun of. And exaggerations about national character, Dutch courage, Roman gratitude. He sees it all as ridiculous.
It shows his literal-mindedness, doesn't it? If it's not straightforward fact, he struggles. Which makes him a fascinating, if maybe not entirely reliable narrator.
Definitely not reliable. We realize pretty quickly his biases are going to color everything.
He even questions the whole idea of virtue rewarded, calls it unrealistic.
He uses the example of Lucas, a warehouse worker. For Droogstapel, the world just doesn't work that way. Good deeds don't automatically pay off.
Which fits his business background, Success isn't always about morality. It's pragmatic, maybe even a bit cynical.
We also get that funny story about him in the fair, trying to impress a girl but backing down from danger.
Right. He highlights his aversion to risk. He freely admits it.
He doesn't like risks, finds support in scripture for not taking risks, thinks people who seek danger are foolish.
It adds another layer, that moment of honesty. He values security, predictability.
Then we meet Stern, a poet, a writer, working under Droogstapel's auspices. Oversight.
Yeah, and Droogstapel doesn't hold back on his generally low opinion of poets and writers.
Not at all. Their relationship seems crucial, though. Stern represents everything Droogstapel seems to dislike about literature.
Emotion, personal feelings, maybe a detachment from the commercial world Droogstapel lives in.
He mentions Stern claiming he's expressed his emotions through writing since he was a kid, looking for a publisher.
That sentimental background is just completely at odds with Droogstapel's supposed rationality.
Exactly. Stern is the artistic type Droogstapel distrusts. But their collaboration, strange as it seems, is how the main story starts to emerge.
All filtered, of course, through Droogstapel's critical, sometimes baffled viewpoint.
So he tells us about an evening with the Rosemeyers there in Sugar, he notes.
Always the business connection.
Always. And a young man, Fritz, gives a recitation. Droogstapel describes his usual stuff as pretty conventional.
The God's Wedding, rhyming biblical books.
Scenes from Camacho's wedding. Things that were probably common may be seen as more acceptable entertainment.
Right, established works, off as moral or religious themes. Less objectionable to someone like Droogstapel than Stern's personal outpourings.
But then he talks about a recent poem Fritz recited. Something about unrequited love that Droogstapel found nonsensical.
He questions the meaning, finds it too complicated.
And he even tells us he was eating a cheese sandwich in pairs while listening.
That detail just perfectly captures his detachment, doesn't it? His inability to connect with the emotional side of poetry. He's focused on the literal, the words, his sandwich.
Not the feeling. Then he mentions two other poems. These were apparently among some papers belonging to a man named Schalman, which Fritz recited.
Ah, Schalman enters the picture.
Yes. The first poem sounds very sentimental, deep, lifelong love, starting from infancy, linked to a mother.
That kind of core human emotion, the mother-child bond, it stands out against Droogstapel's usual dismissals. It hints at something deeper in the narrative.
Maybe something even he can't totally ignore.
Possibly.
He contrasts it with another poem, Missing a Mother, feeling weighed down by life, but finding comfort in nature.
Much more melancholic. Introduces themes of loss, hardship, nature's solace, significant emotional threads starting to weave in.
Even if Droogstapel himself doesn't quite get their importance yet.
Exactly.
So after this gathering, Droogstapel asks Fritz to bring him Schalman's whole package of papers.
And why was that again?
Because he noticed one of his daughters, Betsy, had a bad reaction to a verse Fritz recited the night before. And Droogstapel makes it very clear his household is strict about religion and morality.
His concern for his daughter's upbringing is key here. Very patriarchal, wanting to control what his children are exposed to.
He points to the specific lines he found problematic they were about a newborn baby nursing. He thought that was completely improper for his 13-year-old Marie. Says they avoid talking about storks or, where babies come from.
Gives you a real sense of the social sensitivities and Droogstapel's adherence to them. Very prudish about natural functions.
So he makes Fritz promise not to recite it again near young girls, locks the verse away, but then his curiosity is piqued.
Right, he starts looking through the rest of Schalman's package.
Finds writings in languages he can't even read, but one thing catches his eye.
Let me guess.
A volume titled, Report on Coffee Cultivation in the Residency of Manado.
Coffee, of course. That's the hook.
Exactly. It's pivotal. Coffee, his area of expertise, grabs him. It gives him the justification he needs, maybe, to keep digging into these papers despite his reservations.
It really is the key for him.
And then he lists this incredibly diverse range of other topics in Schalman's papers. It's quite a list.
What sort of things?
Oh, everything. The flammability of water. He thinks it means strong liquor. The milky sea near Banda, teenagers and profits, electricity, the ebb and flow of civilization, privileged trading companies relevant to his book, he notes.
Naturally.
Etymology, bird nest cliffs in Java, the start of the day, responsibilities, Sago, the future of Dutch trade, another motivator for him.
It goes on, doesn't it?
It really does. Genesis, which he dislikes Chinese secret societies. Drawing is natural writing. He likes that bit heaviness in poetry, unpopularity of rice mills, poetry and math, shadow plays, the price of Java coffee, made a note of that.
Of course he did.
And even a European monetary system. It's just astonishingly eclectic.
That list really shows the breadth of Schalman's mind, doesn't it? Hints at the rich, diverse content that's going to filter into Droogstapel's book.
Filtered through his bewildered, opinionated perspective.
It suggests a much wider world out there beyond Droogstapel's coffee ledgers.
Absolutely. And he gives his reasons for not returning the package. Didn't know where Schalman lived.
Convenient.
Package was open. He values truth. And most importantly for him, some parts were about coffee.
There it is again. Those justifications feel a bit self-serving. Highlight his priorities pretty clearly. His commitment to truth seems flexible when coffee's involved.
And it leads him gradually to this firm conclusion: to truly understand the world,
Yes.
one must be a coffee broker.
Oh dear, that's quite a statement. Pure egocentricity.
Yeah.
Elevating his own job to the pinnacle of all understanding.
It really reveals his limited worldview, but also sets the stage perfectly. We're seeing this complex world through the eyes of someone whose perspective is practical, yes, but also deeply biased, narrow, and often unintentionally funny.
And that contrast between his narrow view and the wider reality the book starts to reveal through Schellman's papers, that might be where the enduring essence of this classic really lies. It's about narrative, perspective, truth.
Absolutely. And as we continue this deep dive, we'll see how the author uses this setup, this flawed, fascinating narrator, to explore huge themes. Truth, justice, the human condition, colonialism, all in a unique and really thought-provoking way. It forces you, the reader, constantly question whose truth you're getting.
Exactly. It's a masterclass in using an unreliable narrator to reveal deeper truths.
Thank you for listening to Timeless Reads, a Classics podcast.
We hope this discussion has shed some light on the opening and the core ideas of this fantastic book.
Yes, we hope it illuminated the story for you. If you enjoyed this exploration, please do like, subscribe, and maybe leave a comment to share your own thoughts. We'd love to hear them.